WUSA 9 is your election headquarters, and we're counting down to Election Day. Only 6 days left. And there are many key issues to think about as you get ready to cast your ballot.
Yeah, here is potentially one of them. National Democrats, they've been fundraising over the 3-week-long chaos of the House Speaker saga, and now they're giving extra money to Virginia Democrats who are running for statewide office. While House Republicans in D.C. battled over deciding on a speaker, National Democrats seized the opportunity and started pumping additional money to Democrats running for state offices in Virginia.
Republican dysfunction in Washington could certainly extend to the Republican dysfunction in Richmond.
Outgoing president of the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, Jessica Post, wants voters to believe that the congressional chaos will meander right down I-95 to Richmond. Unsurprisingly, the chairman of the Virginia GOP says not so much.
So while the Democrats, I think, are trying to leverage this very vigorous discussion that unfolded in Washington, D.C. in recent weeks, I think that it is with negligible effect.
Anderson believes Governor Youngkin's performance in issues like education and the economy will yield Republican success on Election Day.
I think that Governor Youngkin, his leadership, and the direction of the Commonwealth are on the ballot.
Glenn Youngkin's out of step with most Virginians. And so one thing that we know that we'll see is just continued dysfunction, the wrong priorities.
One issue we know is motivating voters on both sides of the political spectrum: abortion.
The first thing that the Republicans will plan to do is pass an abortion ban in Virginia.
Republicans in Virginia want a complete abortion ban, and that's what's going to happen if you elect them. True or false?
That is false. And I will say this: the House and Senate leadership and most of the members of both bodies, Republicans, as well as this pro-life governor, have laid out a standard that they think that people can gather around and reach some sort of consensus.
Anderson says Youngkin is for an abortion ban after 15 weeks that includes exceptions for the life of the mother, rape, and incest.
It could happen, I guess, anywhere.
Also, after the shocking mass shooting in Maine, Post points fingers at the state GOP, saying they won't pursue increased gun control measures.
Virginia is near the top of the nation in the severity of our gun laws.
On CBS Mornings Tuesday, the governor countered that and added he believes there are massive holes in the Commonwealth's mental health systems.
Now let's keep the conversation going about Election Day in Virginia next week. We wanted to bring in a political expert to get an independent take on what you just heard.
Yeah, Dr. Stephen Farnsworth, professor and director of political science at the University of Mary Washington, is with us. Dr. Farnsworth, thanks for coming on. You and your university have just recently completed a pretty sweeping poll of Virginia voters. So what do you say about what are the issues that are motivating them right now?
Well, the story that you just aired is exactly what we're talking about. When you think about the abortion issue, it's clear that this has been a very motivating force, particularly for Democrats in the wake of the reversal of Roe versus Wade. Our statewide survey, showed that Democrats were more energized by the abortion question, and it's more likely to be important to them than Republicans. Of course, when Roe versus Wade was the law of the land, the Republicans were more focused on abortion. The other key issue, of course, is education. If you think about how the governor was elected in part on his narrative about increasing parental authority over schools, there has been, in the wake of some of the policies that the governor's put forward, involving sometimes adjusting the history of Virginia to put it in a more favorable light for public education, and of course the issues with respect to book bannings and other things going on in local school boards, that's created a Democratic backlash. And so that issue is much more of an even issue, where Democratic identifiers and Republican identifiers are both very committed to thinking about education as they go to the ballot box this November.
Republicans have the chance to pick up the Senate in Virginia's legislative elections. That would effectively give them a trifecta: control of the governorship and both chambers in the legislature. If that happens, what impact are we talking here long term?
Well, the Republicans have said that they want a 15-week abortion ban. That will be clearly something that would move forward pretty quickly if there's a Republican majority in the House and the Senate. We'll see if that happens, of course. The reality of Virginia politics, for one thing that we know for sure about the outcome of this election, is that each party, the Democrats and the Republicans, will be more cohesive than ever before. There were very few moderates that are going to be in this next legislature. The moderates of both parties have retired or resigned or been defeated in primaries.
We know nationally the trend is when an incumbent president is one party, the opposition party tends to do well in the midterms. Do we have any data about what the trends are in Virginia following a midterm and preceding another presidential election?
Well, one of the things that we know, not unlike the way in which presidential elections lead to a pretty negative environment going into the presidential midterm, the Virginia governors going into a Virginia midterm, it's also the issue of a candidate becoming a governor, having a record, and therefore making enemies and people who are disliking what they see. Now that Glenn Youngkin has been governor for 2 years, people can see and decide whether or not they like what they're seeing with the governor as he's been in office for 2 years. And normally, those 2 years, those midterm elections, not unlike the federal midterm elections, are not particularly favorable for the party in power.
All right, Dr. Stephen Farnsworth, professor and director of political science at the University of Mary Washington. We appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.